Liz, good to see you.
Always great to see you.
You are a rare breed in this one, in that you were a member of Congress. You voted in Watergate to impeach Richard Nixon. You were a district attorney. So you've worn all the hats involved here. People often run for office, including DAs, on a platform of fighting crime. Usually it would have been going after mob bosses or whatever it is that they're going to do. Donald Trump says Letitia James and Alvin Bragg, the Attorney General and the Manhattan District Attorney, ran on a platform to take him down. They ran on platforms that involved prosecuting Donald Trump, whom they believe has committed crimes. Tell me the distinction there between is there an argument that Donald Trump has that these people are politicized because they ran on a platform of going after Donald Trump?
Well, he can make the argument, but the question really is not Alvin Bragg or Letitia James. What you have standing between the prosecutor and a trial is a grand jury. You got 23 people, average citizens, picked at random in New York County, Manhattan, and they had to sit in judgment. And in the state system, the prosecutor can't tell the grand jury what to do. The prosecutor can't say, I want you to indict Trump. All the prosecutor can do is bring the evidence. Donald Trump actually had a witness on his behalf there. And apparently the witness was cogent enough so that the DA had to produce more evidence.
Right.
Okay.
They ended up bringing David Pecker back, who had already testified. So, yeah, something happened there that was, it's not a trial, but the grand jury had questions.
The DA has to persuade the grand jury, not by bullying, not by violence, not by force, but by the weight of the evidence. And apparently the jury was persuaded. This is a jury that sat for a long period of time, and they just made their decision on their own. So I think it's really important to understand that the prosecutor can't put his or her finger on the thumb, on the scales, and get a result here. It can't happen. And you also will have a very tough, smart judge who's going to control the courtroom, and then you'll have a regular jury. Donald Trump's lawyers will participate in the selection of that jury. The exclusion of people who are biased will happen so that he will have a fair process. Then you have appeals. So I'm not overly concerned by these charges. You can't just say, I don't remember the words that they used. I don't think they ever said something like, I'm going to get Donald Trump, but they might say, I'm going to try to bring him to justice.
Right.
But the implication is that there have to be facts and evidence to warrant that.
Now, you were a DA in Brooklyn. This is a case in Manhattan. There were rumblings that the Trump team is going to try and have this moved out to Staten Island. Now, it's important for people who are not from this area to understand these are different counties.
Correct.
This was a Manhattan DA. How does that work? Would that work? Could that work for Donald Trump? Could he get the case moved to a place like Staten Island where he feels he'd have a more sympathetic jury pool?
I don't think it's likely. I mean, the standard is, can you get an impartial jury in Manhattan? There are millions of people who live in Manhattan. The idea that you can't get an impartial jury in Manhattan is, I think, absurd. You have the same news media covering Staten Island as you do in Manhattan. So I think he's going to have a hard time persuading a judge to move the trial, and that's very rarely granted in any case.
I want to ask you, I had Michael Ludig on yesterday, who, amongst others, had expressed some disappointment that this is the first case. Tell me about the sense of the other cases. I'm going to put them up on the screen, but there are, when you total them up, there are about 7 of them. E. Jean Carroll has 2 defamation cases. Letitia James has a civil case, and then there's the Jack Smith 2 cases and the Georgia case. Is there some sense that there's an order in which they go, any coordination between the prosecutors on that about, hey, can I go first because this one's going to be bigger?
Not normally. I mean, this is a state prosecution. Sometimes we coordinate with the federal prosecutors when we decide that, for example, in New York State, we didn't have strong enough laws. We would sometimes get the evidence and then turn it over to the feds. But I can't think of cooperating in the way that they're talking about, although we did sometimes send prosecutors to help the federal government. But I think the idea that this is a kind of trivial case is wrong. Let's go back to what exactly is involved here. Donald Trump thought that the information about Stormy Daniels was so imperiling to his election that he had to cover it up. So it was important to him. We had a cover up. The American people were deprived of certain information. Is it a crime? We have to see. Is there enough information or evidence to prove that? We'll have to see in a normal process. But this is not insignificant. He thought it was significant.
And to your point, if one is some of the people who are not happy that this is first are saying that Donald Trump has imperiled democracy in this country. So what they would like to see is a case that deals with his imperiling of democracy. Obviously, January 6th, the phone call in Georgia. Your point is that this was the beginning of.
Yes, it imperils democracy because what it does, not in the same way as you have a huge mob of thousands of people who are violent in the Capitol and attack cops. That didn't happen here. But the cover-up is what's critical, and it was depriving the American people of vital information. Donald Trump knew it was vital. That's why he wanted to cover it up. So it's not insignificant. It wasn't insignificant to him. Why should it be insignificant to the American people? And we saw in Watergate, campaign finance is not trivial. People went to prison for campaign finance violations in Watergate. Dozens.
This is an important point you made.
Dozens and dozens of people and corporations were convicted of campaign finance violations. Illegal campaign contributions financed the cover-up in Watergate, paid for hush money for the burglars. You can't say that campaign violations are trivial. They go to the heart of democracy, to the heart of it.
Liz, thanks as always. We appreciate having you here. Liz Holtzman, former congresswoman and Judiciary Committee member who voted to impeach Richard Nixon, also the former Brooklyn district attorney.